Andre hasn't taken a three in like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
How have you seen him change his style? Maybe since even a little bit before then.
Well, I just, I think for him, it's no different than it's been for Carmelo or Paul or Russell or Patrick Patterson or Raymond Felton. He's had to learn how to play with new players as well. And last year's team, there was ways that he could find different things that he could do to help us offensively. And now I think with the new team, he's getting a little bit better understanding. There's things that I like that he does besides shooting the ball from behind the line, like putting it on the floor or quickly snapping it to the next guy or getting into a quick pick and roll. Those kind of things I think help. And then I think what he's trying to figure out is, okay, when you're playing with these new players, he knows what Russell likes or knew what Victor liked or different players he was playing with. But now playing with some new guys, he's figuring that part of it out. And I actually think he's done a really, really good job for us offensively the last couple of weeks. I think some of the improvements we've made offensively, people are going to contribute to us making shots. That's a big part of it. There's no question. Your offensive rating is always going to be better when the ball is in the basket. But I also think Andre's got a lot to do with it as well, just in terms of his cutting and moving and just different things that he's done with his screening and his spacing and his recognition of certain situations and getting more comfortable playing with these guys.
Is he better at setting those pin downs, those flare screens that open up guys at the top? Is he better at setting those than he was, a year or two ago?
Yeah, because sometimes players are a little bit different. There's times where certain players like that, where he can get them a shot, and there's other players that would prefer to have spacing. Those are the things you work through when the randomness of happening. Especially if Andre's being guarded where his man's providing a lot of help. What does he do? Everybody's a little bit different. If it's someone like Russell, it's probably better to stay spaced if his man's helping to get Russell on the run against a closeout. Maybe, for someone like Paul, setting a quick pick and roll and letting Paul turn the corner and get downhill and use his size is good for him. So he's figuring those things out of how, whoever's got the ball, whoever's in front of him, how the floor is spaced, who he's playing with, how does he work inside that player or that alignment or that situation. And he's done a good job of trying to read those situations. And sometimes our spacing has gotten hurt by that, and we've kind of gotten too many people in the lane. It's taken away dribble penetration. But the fact that he's doing that, I think, has helped us some. And just need him to continue to make good decisions. And the more information he has, I think the better decisions he'll make.
He's finished some on those cuts, like last year against Houston. Has he gotten better at making passes off?
Yes, that's the thing that I've been really trying to talk to him about, is just exactly that. It's him putting the ball on the floor and initiating offense, because instinctively when you start to attack the basket, people are going to at least protect the rim. Somebody's not going to give him a layup. Now it's the next thing, is that next pass, that next read. He's done a really, really good job of that. That helps us because it creates offense for us, where he gets that ball in the pocket or the middle of the floor and drives it. He can initiate a shot for somebody else, but he can't get all the way to the rim.
It seems like even if they're playing off of him, it freezes when he attacks, and it freezes the defense for long enough to create passing and driving lanes.
Yeah, or pick and rolls, or just getting it quickly swung. There's times where the shot clock's winding down and he's got to take those shots, but early in the clock, there's other things I think he can do to be really effective. And Andre's always been a really good team guy and an unselfish guy, and he's, I think, doing a really, really good job in a lot of ways when he gets put into those situations of moving the ball.
Billy, Andre said that Russell's been more vocal this year in terms of defense. I've noticed it personally too in the past, maybe a couple weeks in games. Have you seen that, and why do you think that there's been more vocalization from Russell in terms of the defense?
He's probably the best guy to ask for that. I just think that he's done a really good job defensively. He's always been smart. I've always looked at Russell as being a vocal player. I don't know if he's been more vocal now or not. He'd probably be better to ask for that. I think he always tries to talk. I think the one thing he's done, a really good job is I think that when you have a new team like this, and you're getting to know different players, he's been really, really encouraging and really uplifting and very positive and very inspiring and even very motivating on the bench for the guys. He's done a great job there. But I feel like he always tries to communicate on the court what's going on. For us defensively, I think last year we were a top 10 defensive team. This year, we've been in the top 5 for the whole entire year. I always believe defenses play with 5 players. You can't be a really good defensive player without having 5 players play it. But certainly it starts with your point guard. And I think he's done a really good job in a lot of ways setting a tone up top there for us. And then you've got a guy like Steven who's anchoring, the back of your defense. So Russell, to your point, yes, he's been very, very vocal. I don't know if it's maybe he's been a little bit more vocal. I don't know. But you, as a point guard, you have to be vocal. You have to be able to talk and explain and call out coverages, and especially when you're on the weak side. The thing I think he does a great job is when he's off the ball, he can see things that are getting ready to happen, and he's yelling those things out. I think Carmelo's got that same kind of ability. I always said this, Carmelo's a great weak side defender because he sees things, he has vision, he communicates. I think there's times when our communication is really at a high level. That's when we're at our best defensively. When we're not as vocal because maybe we don't see something develop, we're not as good defensively. So we've been really trying to emphasize the communication part, on defense, and I think Russell's done a really good job with that.
When you see those things developing off the ball, can that help you compensate if you're not able to physically get there, or if a guy's in a spot where he might get screened? Or
the communication part, well, there's 2 parts. The communication part, when he's off the ball, if he's not in pick and roll, helps Steven. Mm-hmm. That's where you really allow Steven, because there's times where Steven's up in coverage and his job is to get the ball into control. Well, there's certain situations where as he's trying to get the ball into control, they're flooding or emptying out a backside, and we need Steven not to stop the ball anymore. We need Steven to get out of the coverage and get back to his man. The people behind that have to recognize that's getting ready to happen. So as the floor starts to move and people start to cut and you get into these overloaded situations, the help has got to come not from Steven but from another player. That's where Russell's really, really good. When he recognizes those situations, he can yell those things out and get Steven or whoever it is out of coverage. That's the kind of the communication that you need. Just as if I'm a point guard and I'm guarding the ball and I don't see what's going on behind me and someone comes up and sets a screen, I got to know before the screen gets there what the coverage is. Steven's really good at that. So I think Russell, probably being a point guard, most of the time his back is to the defense. He's up top by himself. Everybody's below him. He, in order to do his job, has to be talked to and communicated to early and loud so he can get in the coverage. I think because he knows that, I think when he's off the ball and he's below, he knows the importance of that because he's in those situations a lot. So he does a really good job communicating.
Toronto, on a roll, they go about their business a little bit differently than Houston does, but it seems like the amount of pressure that they can put on you. Like when we were in Memphis the night before we played the Grizzlies, they scored 41 on a break against Memphis. So transition defense, is that still right at the top of the list in a game like this?
Yeah, transition defense is really critical. They're a top 5 offensive team in the league. They're playing really good basketball. They've got a lot of different weapons, so we'll have to, play really, really well defensively. I think to Eric's questions about the communication part and the talking and the being verbal, that's going to be really, really critical, and we got to do a great job of communicating and working out, coverages and things that need to get done, throughout the course of possessions.
They have a lot of same personnel, but they are played very differently. If you look at the numbers in terms of how much they're in isolation, it's way down. Do you see a big difference in just the style of play?
I think they're running a lot of similar stuff that they ran last year. I don't know. Everybody talks about the isolation stuff. I'm not so sure it's an actual accurate assessment of what isolation is. So, it's really hard. If someone catches the basketball and drives it really hard, that's not maybe considered isolation. But if a guy gets it and kind of dribbles it and holds it and dribbles it and holds it and then attacks, that's considered isolation. So it's like really skewed of what isolation is and what's not. I would say Lowry and DeRozan are still doing the same things. They're attacking the guards. DeRozan's probably taking more 3-point shots than he has maybe in the past. But when you drive it or you make any extra pass, you find the open man. I think every team's trying to do that, and I'm sure they've evolved and gotten better in that area, but those guys are still doing what they do well. And I think Dwayne's put them in good positions for them to take advantage of their different talents and skill sets.
Billy, you might have answered this last night when I wasn't in there, but the way that you guys defended Harden in the pick and roll last night, how did you feel about that? And is that an objective that you want to get the ball out of his hands and by pushing Steven up in that situation?
I thought that there were some times we did a really good job, and there's other times we were just okay. I thought our communication yesterday, on a whole, was okay. It wasn't great. It could be a lot better. And some of that had to do with the fact that we got cross-matched. We were not guarding the same people that they were guarding on us. We had different matchups, and sometimes we got crossed up in situations, and kind of we didn't communicate coverages as well as we needed to. I think, Harden and pick and roll is really, really hard because he gets rid of the ball so quickly. Where we did a better job in the second half is when he started making those pocket passes to Capella rolling. I felt like we came across better in the second half and shut that off and made Capella have to make another pass so we could then scramble and rotate to the next person. Whereas I thought in the first half, those passes were leading to direct dunks and layups because we were on the weak side concerned about three-point shooters instead of kind of pulling in and trying to take care of the paint first and then build back out to the three-point line. So I thought the second half we did a better job. Our coverage for the most part was okay, but we did a better job behind the coverage.
So the behind the coverage would probably be more important than a situation as opposed to Steven in the guard getting split by the pass.
Yeah, exactly. Against them, because we were up in coverage, Harden was getting rid of the ball quickly most of the game. He really wasn't stringing out coverage too much. We did a good job. It was when he got rid of the ball into the pocket, or when he got it. That was the bigger issue. Is if we didn't get the balls controlled at the initial point of the screen, and it got driven deep, even though he wasn't in position to take a layup. The deeper the ball gets, the shorter the passes are for him. The higher the ball gets stopped, the longer the passes are. So when he gets that ball deep, now you got the rolls, you got the backside, it becomes really challenging. But that first half, we struggled when we got the ball stopped. Those rolls were for dunks, and I thought in the second half we pulled across a lot better.
Anybody else?
Thanks, Coach.